Hi, everybody. I'm Richard Sher. It is time to square off. And today we have a one-on-one super exclusive interview with former Maryland governor, former Baltimore mayor, former presidential candidate, Martin O'Malley, who has stepped down as commissioner of the Social Security Administration to compete for chair of the Democratic National Committee. Welcome to Square Off, Martin O'Malley. How are you?
I'm good, Richard. How about you? And how's your lovely bride?
Mine and yours?
Yeah, mine's doing great.
She's lucky. She's
Yeah,
lucky. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
I'm lucky.
Having the opportunity to cover you in all your capacities, it's been really terrific. And you've done a great job. In fact, we have heard that you have made great progress at the Social Security Administration, like cutting the wait time to get through to your 800 number. Not more, it used to be more than 40 minutes. Now your 800 number can be reached in 12.8 minutes. So the O'Malley Social Security gets excellent reviews. So why would you want to give it up?
Yeah, I didn't want to give it up. Richard, can we talk for a little bit about Social Security and how it was that I came to, you know, serve
Absolutely.
those men and women in Baltimore? We kind of take for granted uh, that we are the headquarters of the Social Security Administration of the United States of America. That is the headquarters that serves 71 million and counting active beneficiaries in the United States. And it's headquartered when my neighbors saw in the news that the president had asked me to go save Social Security from a customer service meltdown. They said, "Oh, I guess you're going to be going to DC every day." I said, "No, Social Security's headquartered here." They say, "I'd be damned. Where?" I said, "You ever hear of Security Boulevard?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "Social Security Boulevard." So I got a call about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago. It takes that long to get through the confirmation process from the White House. And they told me that due to staff reductions by Congress, that Social Security had been reduced to its lowest staffing in 50 years, even as baby boomers make our customer base rise every single day to an all-time high. And one of the most glaring examples of that impending customer service meltdown, which was due to crater right in the middle of this election year, was that long wait time on the 1-800 number. There were other manifestations of that as well. In addition to 8 million people having to wait for as much as an hour, hour and a half for benefits they had already earned, we also had the largest ever backlog of 1.1 million initial
Wow.
disability claims waiting in the state of Maryland. The wait time for just the initial disability claim was 365 days. And if
Uh,
you're denied, the appeal goes right back to that same state office, where the staff are paid for by federal dollars, but they're all state employees. And you'd have to wait another 365 days for the first level appeal. So the actuary said that more people die waiting for their initial disability claims now than ever before since that disability program was signed into law by Dwight Eisenhower in the 1950s. So, what did we do about these things? We did the same thing that I learned to do with the city of Baltimore through a program we called CityStat, and then
yep.
we took to scale at the state called StateStat, and in fact, even beyond the state's borders to a program we called BayStat, where we got all 6 states in the largest, watershed of any estuary in North America, the Chesapeake Bay, to start measuring the actions we take every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, not annually on a budget, but every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. What can we do to make things better this 2 weeks than they were the prior 2 weeks? So what we called it at Social Security was security stat. And imagine a large, well, not so large room, a room large enough to hold about 50 or 60 people, but it's configured not in a long table like the Addams Family Christmas, where the patriarch sits at the top, but instead it was a an open round circle around a big Social Security seal, and with a podium at the front where the component head, what Social Security has various components or divisions, if you will. The largest one being operations, the 1,211 field offices all across the country. So at that meeting, the head of operations would present the state of things the way they are. And these cats, by the way, Richard, had collected a lot of data for a long time. So they just had never been given permission to open that data, land it on the map so that we could run plays like you would on a football field. Imagine how miserable a football game would be to watch if there weren't a compelling scoreboard, if there weren't goal lines, if there weren't yard markers, and if the players were all blindfolded.
Who prevented that from happening,
Uh,
from opening that up?
You know, there's a lot of things. We could do a whole half hour on why it is that our government at all levels fears openness and transparency. The data's never been easier to collect and to land on the map, but there's still the fear of 300 years of democracy that if you're open and transparent, people will pluck the things where you're falling short and embarrass you with those. Uh, I
Well,
reject that philosophy because, and I wrote a whole book on this. It's called Smarter Government, available at Amazon. Makes a great Christmas gift, and
sure does. What's it called, Martin?
it's called Smarter Government: How to Govern for Results in the Information Age. A book that is as relevant today as when I wrote it a few years back because of the diminished amount of trust we have in the ability of our government to deliver. But anyway, back to Social Security. So we would meet every 2 weeks, four meetings in week one, double headers Monday and Tuesday.
Security
Uh,
stat.
and at security stat, we do operations in the first hour. We'd break. We'd go to the follow-up room across the hall. We'd have an after-action memo, and we essentially created a cadence of accountability and cooperation and collaboration that was every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks. And as a result, we turned that battleship on a dime. By the time I left last week, or I think it was just last week, 2 weeks ago, on Friday was my very last day. We had moved every major service line, the timeliness of service line delivery, like if you're applying for Medicare only, or if you're applying for your retirement. We got all of those moving in a better direction after 7 years of moving in the wrong direction,
Well, let me
including
ask you this, Martin.
at
If
the
I
top.
go
That
ahead.
speed to answer on the 1-800 number, we reduced from 42 and a half minute average at the beginning of the year, and we got it down to 12 and a half minute average. And so I'm very proud of the men and women that work there. They do not receive the thanks or the respect they deserve from their federal government. I mean, the fact that they kept the checks cranking out, didn't miss a payment all through COVID, and that they continued all this year to do better and better every 2 weeks, notwithstanding a huge workload and a diminished staff. I've never had a more enjoyable, satisfying stretch of service than I did, well, not since being mayor, as I did with those
Of
committed,
course.
patriotic men and women at Social Security this last year.
There is some concern, a lot of concern, that under the Trump administration, he and his guys, Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, might take a look at reducing Social Security. You think that's a possible outcome?
I think it's absolutely possible. The courageous way that the men and women of Social Security were able to rise to the occasion, get and improve performance and productivity. Last year we increased productivity since last year by 6.2%, which is, which is a very substantial gain. However, it would be very easy to crater this agency uh, by inflicting more budget cuts. It's not right. It doesn't make sense. The administrative overhead for Social Security, Richard, is less than 1% of what their annual
Oh,
benefits
really?
paid out are. If you look at private insurance companies, Allstate is 19% overhead for annual benefits. Liberty Mutual, Liberty Biberty is 23% for overhead. But so Ramaswamy and these guys, they've never really made government work ever in their careers. Uh, but they would have a very easy time breaking it and then claiming, oh, well, government doesn't work. So we're going to have to turn Social Security into a Bitcoin bank. And that's a very real danger. Social Security, in a time of great division and polarization in our nation's politics, is nonetheless the second most trusted brand of all the federal agencies in the eyes of the citizens, second only to the Interior Department and Smokey the Bear. And 80% of Americans, regardless of political persuasion or party registration, believe that Social Security should be strengthened and made better, and benefits should be increased, not cut, decreased, or abandoned. So
I have a quote that you told to government executive media publication. Quote, this is from Martin O'Malley. My high-end message is this. Anyone who says that the federal government can't work is wrong. At a time when trust in public institutions is in decline, to witness what we did up there will always be one of the greatest honors of my life. So you have to feel pretty good about what you did
I
in.
do. And Richard, in my final video message to the men and women at Social Security, I told them my greatest hope is that they continue the progress. And secondly, my other big hope is that one day I will return to them. I never worked with a finer group of people.
I think that's terrific. And I want to hear more about your seeking the chairmanship of the Democratic National Committee. But first, a treat for you, former Governor Martin O'Malley. Here is the voice of Squirrel. He has won Emmys, Oscars, everything you can imagine. Here is Howard Mallison. Sit back, Governor, and relax.
Thank you, Richard. You know, Papa's Restaurants, by the way, we would like to thank our four sponsors for making Square Off possible. Papa's Restaurants and Sports Bars voted best crab cake year after year by readers' polls, and it's Oprah's favorite. 4 locations with the newest in Bel Air. And leading edge auto body and mechanical repair want you to know that the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. Call Leading Edge at 410 433 6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in the heart of Mount Washington. And our good friend, attorney Barry Glazer, who will help you get the compensation you're entitled. Barry has a doctor and nurse on staff. So for personal injury, medical malpractice, or nursing home neglect, call Barry Glazer at 410 547 8568. And your friendly neighborhood Double T Diners. From Route 40 West to Annapolis and everywhere in between, the Double T Diners are the area's #1 choice for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Double T, totally terrific. Back to you, Richard.
All right, Governor, why are you smiling? You smirked
Because
through all of Howard's hard
that,
work.
that was not a smirk. That was a smile that comes from being very intimately connected to one's home place. So when you were mentioning each of those names of your sponsors, I mean, Katie O'Malley's big on the having the kids over on the side porch underneath the awning in the summertime for crabs, which we always get from Pappas. Uh, the Double T Diner, I've loved the Double T Diner ever since my first days in Baltimore, staffing Barbara Mikulski, who we would do a diner blitz and a deli blitz, and was a staple of every campaign. So I was just, and of course Barry Glazer. Who could forget Barry Glazer? Star of courtrooms and Scream. So there was just a smile that comes from thinking of all of those very familiar places close to home.
Very good. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Exclusive interview. No one has him except squareoff.net, and that is Governor Martin O'Malley. Now, as chair of the Democratic National Committee, and you are the first person to enter this race, touting your governing experience, your success as chair of the Democratic Governors Association, and the contacts you made running for president of the United States in 2016. Others have entered the competition. Why are you the best candidate for this job, and what does it entail, in your opinion?
Yeah, Richard, after a couple of nights of tossing and turning after the election, I called a good friend who's a longtime member of the DNC, and uh, I was encouraged, rather than discouraged from this line of thought. I was encouraged to do it, and this is why. Um, there were many people who thought that this election of the DNC chair this year, there were many people who hoped it would be not a not an election of a change maker or someone to rebuild and reconnect the party, but rather a kind of caretaker election. When when the Democrats control the White House, the chair of the DNC is pretty much there to do whatever he or she is asked to do by the White House and the President of the United States, who's the elected leader of the party. But this is different. This year suddenly became different with the results of the election. And while there are a couple of other people running, the main candidates being uh, current chairs of their own states, Wisconsin, state chair of the party there, and the chair of Minnesota, state chair of the party there, who's the chair of all the chairs this year. While being the chair of a state party is good experience, it's not the depth or the breadth of experience that I offer, which I submit to you in 3 bullet points succinctly, and then glad to unpack, the rest of your question. What does the DNC chair do? Right now, the DNC chair would be much more of a wartime rather than peacetime leader of this party. We have to. These are not going to be an easy couple of years ahead, and we need somebody that can go toe to toe with this new administration and point out for people probably every single day, every week, why the decisions being made are not in the best interest of families all across America and the economic security they want to have as they gather around their own kitchen table at home. So these are the 3 attributes I offer that no one else in this race can. Number one, I'm probably now the best operational turnaround leader in our party. And I've proven it at every level, including most recently at the president's request in saving Social Security from a customer service meltdown and turning it in the right direction in a very rapid span of time. Secondly, I am the only candidate that's actually chaired a national committee, the Democratic Governors Association, which I chaired for 3 years of every year a new record in fundraising, and every year winning in places of so-called red states. And how did we do that? Because we honed our message. And it was just 3 words: jobs, opportunity, now. And lo and behold, Richard, you can fight under that banner in every state in the union. And we did, and we won in places like Montana, Missouri, North Carolina for a time, West Virginia for a time, and Kentucky, which a Democratic governor still governs today. And then finally, as a candidate myself, I know what it's like, and we're going to have to recruit candidates to knock on doors in every office across the ballot, not just House and Senate, but school board, county council, city council. I've done that. I've been elected and reelected as in the Baltimore City Council, where I knocked on 8,000 some doors. I was elected mayor of Baltimore, and I was reelected governor after the recession, not by being untethered and speaking in academic language to the people I was leading out of the recession, but in very plain, direct, kitchen table economic terms. In fact, we used to travel around the state, you may remember this, in a green Winnebago with an actual kitchen table strapped to the back of the Winnebago,
Right, that's great.
which we would carry out before talks in church halls or other places. And I'd set it up and say, you know what this is? This is the most important place in Maryland. And it is the kitchen table of every home in Maryland. And it's what I think about every single day as your governor in the decisions I make for us, among us, and between us. And so those are the 3 attributes I offer. No one else can offer those. Perhaps somebody else will emerge that does, but I don't see that person on the horizon right now. And so I'm doing this. I'm doing it with 1,000% of what I have because I love my country, and I know the only thing that stands between saving and losing the republic is a Democratic Party that is made battle ready very rapidly to win the elections in front of us.
Why do you think President-elect Donald Trump did so well against your Democrats in this election on November 5th? What went wrong and what has to be done to turn it around? And you're certainly would be the catalyst to see that done based on what you've said so far.
Right. And the election in 2016.
I want to
And
talk about that, but not right this second.
yeah, and the even his defeat should not have been as close as it was. And now we've done this to ourselves a second time. Let me give you the high level reason why somebody like Donald Trump uh, is uh, is able to garner so much support in these times. The big macro reason is that we have suddenly become, as Americans, very fearful of the future. That runs contrary to everything the world thought they understood about the American character. Uh, we are a people who, for all of our perhaps forgetfulness about history, have, for the longer arc of our existence as a republic, always woken up to look at the future with some hope and some optimism and belief
Right.
that we can do better by our own kids. But ever since the late 1980s, uh, wages, incomes for the vast majority of Americans have actually flatlined, even though the price of things has continued to go up. And that led to a lot of really bad things, including income inequality, which greatly undermines our economy as well as our country. And it led to a sense that the world, which is changing so rapidly, a third industrial revolution, lots of upheavals to the very, nature of work and how we accomplish work, uh, all of that change, Americans know people can get hurt when things change. And we've certainly seen that when I was campaigning across Iowa and other parts of the Midwest, either for myself when I ran for president or as a surrogate for Hillary Clinton. I visited towns and places where you could look into the hopelessness in people's eyes because there once perhaps was a Maytag factory in town. And that left because of globalization and trade and the instance of suicide, fentanyl overdoses, and the like. I mean, are all manifestations of the fear which Donald Trump has seen in those same eyes, and he is expert. He has a twisted talent for tapping into the fear of people and and connecting with people based on their fear. We have not done a good job as a party of meeting people where they're and acknowledging their perception of the future, but offering a better way forward. Nor did we do a very good job these last 4 years of connecting the dots between the things that we were doing while in power and the things that were helping people in their own family struggles with the cost of things. I'll give you one example. Uh, Prescription drug prices. The Biden administration did an outstanding job of finally breaking what had been the grip that the drug companies had that allowed them to raise the price of all sorts of drugs exorbitantly because they had our hands tied behind our back and we could not negotiate Medicare prescription drug prices. So we've been able to do a lot of good work bringing down the price of prescription drugs, but we didn't really communicate that in this campaign. So, in conclusion, here, Richard, what we have, what we've seen in these last few elections is the primacy of fear in the hearts of a lot of Americans, and Donald Trump with his savant talent for tapping into fear. Now, the things that he is offering to do, further concentrating power and money in the hands of millionaires and oligarchs, breaking Social Security instead of strengthening it, and all those other things are going to hurt families every week, every day, moving forward for the next 2 years. And we need to do a much better job as a party. And this is where the DNC chair comes in, of convening this big tent party around the table so that we are more effectively communicating, not only on the airwaves, but also online, also in podcasts, also in digital. We did a good job of
It
knocking
all
them
makes
off.
a lot of sense. It really
Yeah.
does.
So that's what we need to do in a nutshell and more.
Don't go away.
I'm not going away. I was just picking up my pen.
I understand. I understand. Let me ask you personally, how do you feel and what are your concerns about President Trump getting back in the White House?
Yeah, I have grave concerns about it, and that's why I'm running for chair of the DNC. America is still a democracy, Richard, but we have become something less than a republic. And what I mean by that is this. When uh, when someone can actually uh, gather an armed mob on the ellipse of the White House, sick them on the Capitol, resulting in the deaths of other human beings, including police officers, and chase our elected representatives down the halls of Congress when they were trying to certify a vote. And yet that person is not prosecuted in a timely way, are failing as a party, are failing as an administration. We become something less than a republic. When the nation's major newspaper fails to even be allowed by its owner, one of the wealthiest men in America, to render an editorial opinion, then we have lost the freedom of press, freedom of free expression that is a hallmark characteristic of a republic. So we have become right now something less than a republic. And my concern for the immediate 2 years is that right now he is not checked by a House where Democrats are in control or in the majority, nor by a Senate where Democrats are in majority. And they already took over the Supreme Court. And now they're going to weaponize the Department of Justice, and they're going to weaponize the IRS. And in order to, as Donald Trump has said many times, go after his political opponents. And that is not something that is part and parcel of what it means to be a republic. A republic should be a place where no one is above the law. A republic is a place where every person's human dignity is respected in the law and in practice and by our elected leaders. So we have become something less than a republic, and we need to make sure that we recover, because most republics don't recover from electing an authoritarian leader, dictator, somebody who has no regard for norms, no regard for the law. But that's what we've done to ourselves now for a second time.
You think you can dig out of it, sir?
I do. I absolutely do. Or I wouldn't be running for DNC chair. I'd be running for the hills. So no, I absolutely believe that we can come out of it. But it's not going to be easy. These are going to be dark days ahead, and we're all going to have to take a deep breath, buckle in, and try as best we can as Americans to hang in there and to try to see goodness in the hearts and the minds of people who disagree with us on what sort of threat Donald Trump truly is. I think our electorate has been greatly misinformed, underinformed, and conned by one of the greatest con men ever to run for office.
Well, now let's go, just since we have a few minutes left, some lighter stuff. As we know, Taylor Swift is the most fabulous entertainer ever, and she's made gazillions. But speaking of great musical groups, what is the status of O'Malley's March?
I didn't actually anticipate that Taylor Swift would be a setup for O'Malley's March. So O'Malley's March has retired.
No.
Yes. We had, I was chair of my international family's annual reunion, something the O'Malleys have been doing somewhere in Ireland every year for 80 years. So I was chair of that, chieftain of that last year, which is a bit like being father of the bride at a destination wedding where there's no bride, but there are bills to be paid. And we did get the band together, and they flew to Ireland, and we had an awesome set that we performed on Clare Island in the middle of Clew Bay, the resting place of the great matriarch of the O'Malley clan, Grace O'Malley. So the band, every now and again, we might get together with some of the former members. Every now and again, if there's a musician who says, "Hey guys, I didn't realize I was double booked on this night. Could you fill in?" And they always know that we're available because we're no longer employed. So they sometimes call on us for that. But O'Malley's March, all bands run their course, Richard. So We had a great number of years. We had a lot of fun. You can still find our music on Spotify, and but I'm focused on other things right now.
I had suggested, then we'll wrap it, but I had suggested when you were running for president in 2016 that you should get out there with the band. And you said no way. What I thought my vision for you was to appear on these night talk shows with your T-shirt, your big guns,
Yeah.
sing a few songs, and endear yourself to a public that's not familiar with you. But you said no way.
Well, I did go on The View with a guitar once, and it was described by
Whoopi Goldberg.
no. Yeah, I was on The View and I did a Taylor Swift song, in fact, I think a little. And Rolling Stone magazine, who was doing a profile at the time, called it a pop music war crime. So, but all over Iowa, I would jump up on chairs and, do the two-headed monkey thing and sing the song. There was a lot of Woody Guthrie, "This Land Is Your Land." So I did do that a bit, but alas, I did not go on like Jimmy Kimmel with O'Malley's March, and maybe I should have. Who knows? It seemed like timing was against us that year, uh, but onward and upward. Maybe I was spared.
Your campaign, it's for DNC is on. It's in progress.
It is in progress. You can check it out. If you go online, just Google Martin O'Malley, DNC. You'll come to our splash page. And if any of my friends out there listening to this can help this race, can help me turn our party around quickly, please go online, donate what you can. It doesn't cost as much as running for president, thank goodness. But if you could do $50 or $100, it would be hugely helpful. And as well as your prayers and good words to other people you may know who have a vote on the DNC. The election happens January 31st and February 1st here in Maryland at National Harbor, just south of DC in Prince George's County.
Well, we certainly wish you luck.
Yeah, and I thank Ben Cardin and Angela also Brooks and Chris Van Hollen for on day one giving full-throated support and endorse. And so it's going very, very well. And Richard, I thank you for giving me the time to be on Square Off. Not for the first time and hopefully not for the last time.
I hope not. I love to Katie and the kids.
Hey, thank you.
They're
And
not
Diana.
kids anymore. They're not kids anymore.
No, they're all adults. Young William just passed the bar. He's a full-fledged lawyer.
Which bar does he frequent?
Maryland bar. I'm talking about the one that qualifies lawyers to practice, not the one that I walk to 8 blocks from my home.
Well, it's great to see you.
Great seeing you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Chairmanship for the Democratic National Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our exclusive SquareOff.net interview with Martin O'Malley. Good luck, and we will see you all next time when once again we square off. Thank you, Governor. Take care.
Thank you.